Hello, I'm Dr. Ryan Anderson. This webinar is to teach you about the consultant pattern, which is a very powerful tool that we use all of the time here at Telos U, and that we hope you will become very proficient at using yourselves. Now, it's important while we think about the consultant pattern to recognize that there's the right time and the right place to use it. First of all, it assumes that both you and your young adult child are in the green. So again, there's a whole other training on understanding what green, yellow, and red means in the relationship continuum. But the short version of the story is they're not in crisis, they're not dangerously acting out, nor are they in a place where they are so rigid and emotionally escalated that they can't still be flexible and utilize their creative thinking aspects and problem solving aspects of their brain. So they're under distress, they're having some kind of a problem, but they're still active enough in the prefrontal cortex to be able to be reasonable, rational, do problem solving. Now, if the young adult child is having a problem with you, the consultant pattern is not the right tool for you to try to use with them. If they're having a problem with you, the right tool to look at is the talking stick, which we have another webinar about, which you'll also be trained about in family days and in family therapy. If they are having a problem with you, go with that one. However, if they are having a problem with something else, maybe it's a struggle with school or a relationship, or the way they're managing an emotion or a social difficulty that they're having, then the consultant pattern is the right way to go and the right tool to use. Keep in mind, what you want to be doing through utilizing the consultant pattern is helping them become more and more capable of solving the problems that they are facing rather than avoiding problems or having someone else solve problems for them. So there's a general pattern to the consultant pattern. And we'll go through each one of these pieces. I'll start with an overview. The first thing that you're trying to do is connect with them emotionally. If they're not feeling that you can understand the emotional experience they're having and that you accept it as valid, they're not very likely to be open to you trying to help them through the process of thinking through their situation and coming to solutions. And then a lot of what we want to do, like I said, rather than just solving problems for them, we want to activate their own critical thinking. And this can be a good opportunity to help them look at factors that sometimes they miss, but also to help us learn about the way they are understanding their situation, the way they are developing options, and what obstacles they run into. There is a time to share perspectives if they want us to, and we'll talk a lot about that. But a lot of what we want to do is accentuate the fact that they do have choices, even under very difficult circumstances, and that only they are capable of making choices for themselves. We want to help them create time and space that they need in order to make a good choice. And we want to know how to utilize good boundaries if that's a part of what needs to happen. And last but not least, we want to talk about good follow up. So let's take a look at this a little bit more on a ground level intervention. So if they are coming to you with some kind of a struggle, they may be depressed or anxious or withdrawn, the first thing that you want to do is to be able to help them know that you see, understand, and care about the emotion that they're having. So you'll notice over here on the right side of the screen, we have the prompt, wow, you sound fill in the blank. What happened? So you seem overwhelmed, you seem stressed, you seem lonely, you seem like you're feeling pretty defeated right now. Can we talk about what's going on with you? And again, it needs to not feel like an interrogation. It needs to be, wow, I really care about what's going on. I want to make sure I understand what has brought you to feeling this way. And as you talk about this, you want to validate their emotions. Now, that doesn't mean that you necessarily agree with all of their perceptions or the way that they are understanding the situation, but they need to hear that you can say, hey, I can understand why you're feeling the way that you're feeling. They need to see that you respond with empathy and care. And these are the things that will open the door to further communication, help them stay out of the overly distressed realm where they won't be able to do problem solving, and help them to engage in problem solving that is progressive for them. Now, once we've spent time and we feel confident that they know that we understand what they're feeling and why, and that we care about it, we can then open up with the next stage of the consultant pattern. You'll notice the prompt here. What are your options? A lot of what we're trying to understand is, how do they see the situation and what options do they feel are available to them? Sometimes, simply by talking through this, they become to be more aware of options that they hadn't really realized before. But what we're not trying to do is say, these are the options I'm trying to lead you to. This is really an exploratory step. So we want them to take a look, and they may say, I don't feel like I have any options. Okay, that's valid feedback. Or they're looking at, well, I only feel like I have one. But it's really important for us to get in there and understand the way they see the situation. Now, one thing that's very important is, if they come up with perfectly serviceable options that are well balanced and that come up with good solutions to their problem, it's not necessary to try to offer them other options. But if we do see that they are in a spot where maybe they're not quite getting it all, or maybe where they're missing some things that are important, we can reach out and go to the next step. You'll notice the prompt, can I share some possible solutions with you? Now notice, this is listed as a question and a request for permission. I've seen other people kind of go through something similar, and I've had some thoughts about what might be helpful. And I'm wondering if you'd be interested in hearing them. Or, as we've talked about this, there are a few things that came to mind, and I was curious how you were thinking about them. Are you open to hearing what I was thinking? So you ask their permission. And guess what? If they say, no, I'm not interested, you don't force the issue of sharing. But it's a very, very rare day when, if I've done a good job with those first two steps of the consultant pattern, that when I open up and ask if they'd be interested in hearing my perspectives, that they'll say no, right? Our openness to them invites their openness to us. And so this is an opportunity to say, well, in circumstances like yours, I've seen these kinds of things work out well, and these kinds of things really kind of stumble. And I'm wondering if you've considered that. Or sometimes I might say, as you were talking, I liked a lot of what you were saying. There was one factor I was wondering if you had considered. And it was really kind of this. And as I thought about it, I thought maybe these would potentially be some good options. And here's why. Now, that's another part that I think that's very important, is when we are sharing our perspectives or what we see as options, to make sure that we show our math, not just to tell them, well, I think you should do X. We need to go through the process of, here's the way I'm seeing the situation. These are the things that I've experienced or that I'm thinking about that are informing some of the things I think might be a good idea. And that's why I think X, Y, or Z might be good ideas. Another thing to keep in mind is helping them develop more than one option, even if you have one that you think is the very best, is very helpful to help them get out of all or nothing thinking. Now, keep in mind, sometimes they'll suggest options that are not good ideas, but they are options. I might decide to cheat or steal or yell at someone. We could say, yeah, I think that's an option. Let's talk about how that's likely to play out if you do. And I wonder if that's something you've considered. Now, from there, once they've talked about what they see as options, we've helped them explore and expand. The next thing we need to help them understand is, hey, look, this is a choice for you to make. Given everything we've talked about, what choice do you think you want to make? This is not a saying you've got to do X, Y, or Z. That's very important to steer away from that. But this gives them an opportunity to really think and weigh out the different options we've talked about and say, well, what do I think I'm willing to do? And if we find that they're very hesitant, we can explore with them, what feel like obstacles to these different choices we've talked about? What would need to change for that to feel like it was something that you could feel like you could choose, and that would work out well for you? So it's important to say, hey, look, you don't necessarily have to make this decision right now. Maybe you should take a little bit of time and really think through the decision. And then, so we're encouraging them, take some time, think things through, give yourself some space. Don't make decisions in the spur of the moment if you don't have to. And most of the time, we don't have to. And express confidence in their ability to figure out what would be a good choice to make. Now, let them know that you have faith in them and that that you believe in their ability to make good choices. Now, it is possible that they may come back and they may tell you, okay, I'm going to make a choice. And the choice is really something that you can't support. So maybe the choice is, I'm going to skip out on school. I'm going to cheat on this assignment. I'm just going to, try to make the problem go away or ignore things. There may be any number of different things that this could look like. Now, you're not in a position to simply completely accept whatever decision they're making. If they're making something you can't get on board with as far as decisions go, it's okay for you to say, understanding if you're going to make that choice, that really puts me in an awkward situation. And you need to explain what about that is putting you in an awkward situation. Like, I really can't feel good about a choice where you might be doing something to hurt someone else. Or I can't feel good about a choice where you're knowingly being dishonest. That's something that's very hard for me, and I can't get on board with supporting that. So knowing that if that's the choice you're going to make, it puts me in the awkward position where really the option I have is to respond in this way or that way. And that's really what I feel like I would have to do if you make the choice to do that. Now, you'll notice we're not trying to threaten, we're not trying to intimidate, we're not trying to bribe, we're not even trying to convince them to choose differently. We're simply saying, look, that's a solution I can't get on board with. Here's why. And these are the choices. While you would have a choice that you're making, these are the choices that this would put me in the position of making, and this is what I would do. So understanding that that's the way I would feel that I would need to respond in that situation, do you still feel like that's a choice that you want to make? And maybe knowing that from me now, you want to take a few more minutes to think about it and really ask yourself, knowing that that will be the way that I'll need to respond, is that what you want to do? And again, you're not trying to change their mind. You're simply letting them know how you will choose based on the choice they will make. Now, a lot of times when we approach things that way without trying to leverage, but simply being very clear, many times that will be enough to help someone take a step back from a poor decision and then try to work with you on making a better decision, although sometimes it won't be the case. And when that's the case, then we need to follow through with what we said that particular consequence or response would be. Just as if, hey, they're trying to do something positive, and we say, that's great. How can I help you? All right, we want to follow through on that. But even if we have to follow through with a boundary that is something that they're not happy about, we want to make sure that we express love and support. Say, look, this was a hard situation. I understand why this was a difficult choice to make, and I understand why my response is something that's hard for you, and this is the way it is sometimes in the process of learning and growing. But then you want to reassure them. I want to let you know I love you. I want to let you know that I have faith that as we keep on working together, that we'll get to a point where you're able to feel confident in the decisions you're making, and that I can feel confident in the decisions you're making as well, and that these hard things, that we'll figure them out. That's really important. So even when it's something that you can't support, you're still supporting them emotionally, letting them know that your heart is open, even if you can't get on board with that particular choice that they're making. This is a very powerful tool. And the more you become proficient at using it, the more you'll help your young adult son or daughter become proficient at really thinking through their options, at beginning to see some things that sometimes fall into their blind spot, but also feeling like they can come to you with problems and have a good, non-reactive, helpful response that helps them work towards some kind of a solution that helps them have a better experience with their lives.